Hey, thanks for checking out my channel. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, and it's spooky season. You like my spooky voice? I'd be good at demonic possession movies. This is Under Wraps 2. So, yeah, I did the first one, so I went ahead and did the second one. It's not that big of a deal, but if you want to know what this is like, we're going to talk about it. I'm a blind film critic, and I did want to review some family-friendly content for Halloween as well for spooky season. So, I I went into this thinking that I was going to be watching the original Under Wraps because I never saw the one from the 90s. I'm a 90s kid, but yes, I missed Under Wraps. I'm sorry. And everybody else is just like, Under Wraps is like one of my favorite films as a kid. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll watch it. It says it's on Disney Plus. And I clicked on it, and it loaded, and I didn't even know they remade it. I had no idea. I had no idea that in 2021 that they remade this movie. So, yeah. I ended up watching the remake because Disney doesn't have the classic original one on Disney Plus. I don't know why you have a streaming service if you have so many back catalog of Disney movies and you won't put them on your service, but you'll just remake them instead. So now there's a sequel to the remake. I thought when Under Wraps 2 came out, I saw it and I was like, oh, it's a legacy sequel. Cool. Like, kind of like what they're doing with Life Size 2. No, it's a sequel to this remake that I didn't know had happened. So, we're back with the remake, kids. And, not Bill Fagerbach, or whatever his name was, the guy that was on Coach back in the 90s, who was playing the mummy underneath. No, it's just a guy. It's just less interesting. And the sequel centers around the idea that a year later, the kids they're up to more shenanigans. I will say that parents likely, certain blocks of parents probably got like a cell phone alert when this movie came out in Disney Channel, Disney Plus. I'm sure there's like an app where you can get an alert and you're like, gay wedding alert, gay wedding alert. Do not let your children. I'm surprised I haven't seen more protests over this movie. This entire movie centers around a gay wedding. So it could either be the most delightful thing you've ever watched, or it could be something that makes you jump off the roof of your house screaming while on fire. I don't know. It's up to you. You make your own life choices. But the whole movie does center around our Amy and her parents, which I thought I mentioned in my first review. I was like, I'm pretty sure she mentioned she has dads. And she does. And they are getting married. There's actually a really nice line about how they're like, they're trying to make her feel better, and they're like, listen, years ago we wouldn't have been able to do this. Just the fact that we're able to do this now, and I'm like, damn, we're getting like, we're really driving a message home here. Like, what is this movie about? But the rest of the movie is just the gang plus Buzzy. They've inherited Buzzy because they're not old enough to drive. So it's the three younger kids plus Buzzy going everywhere. And they have to drive Harold and Rose around, who they reanimate, because it turns out that somewhere else, another mummy has reanimated. A mummy who does not understand the word of consent and who was not taught that. And by God, he's going to push Harold out of the way, and he and Rose will lay together eternally. Even though Rose is happy with Harold. they do use the mummy's like actual name. I forgot what it was, but he's got some actually like Egyptian sounding name. Yet these kids, even though they look up the backstory and they find out of how this other how evil mummy is connected to Harold and Rose, they still continue to use Harold and Rose's names, which are just stand-ins because they didn't know what their names were. It's kind of like sending kids a message like, if your name is too hard to pronounce, change it to something that's easy to pronounce. So I guess for these kids, you know, now that they know obviously what these mummies' names are, you know, they don't want to say things like Tutankhamun or Amenhotep, you know, so they're just like, that's too hard. We'll keep it at Harold. It's like, okay, I don't know that this is the right message we should be sending out to kids, but you know, if people are struggling pronouncing your name, just make it easier. Cool. Lose whatever culture and heritage was given to you by your name, and then just call yourself Harold. I don't even know if that's remotely close to what his actual name is, but anyway, they kind of just spend the whole movie doing random things because evil mummy, he's got this one guy sort of like under his spell, Larry, who is basically just a way of voicing. It's like he can understand what the evil guy is saying to him, so that way we don't have, you know, three main characters who can't speak and just communicate with you know, like, because at a certain point it gets to be a bit much. Yeah, and I love the conversations too these kids have with these mummies, and I'm like, they don't understand English. First of all, you can't understand them because they're speaking in and then when you're speaking to them, you're speaking to them in English. They're not from here. They are Egyptian mummies. I know I'm overthinking a Disney movie, but we could at least try to bring up some of these things and make our kids a little bit smarter. Just a tiny bit smarter. Critical thinking skills. So, the mummies do every dumb thing remotely possible. They even do like, I guess like it's a version of, it sounded like a version of DDR, Dance Dance Revolution, like it was called some like generic thing in the movie, but it sounded like they were doing DDR to me because they were talking about stepping on lit pads on the floor, and I was like, that's DDR. Is that still a thing? Like, I remember when that was a craze 20 years ago. Did that pop back up? Are kids nowadays doing DDR again? Did it never go away? Is it like a cult thing? I don't know. I'm so intrigued by that. I was like, man, okay, DDR is back. And just kind of going through and trying to stay away from evil mummy, and he slowly makes his way there, and the big climax ends up being at the gay wedding, and I realized what I just said, and I don't regret it, and and we just, yeah, so evil mummy, you know, who has no boundaries and does not understand consent, is fighting for control of poor Rose, who has far more to do in this movie than she did in the first one. And then Harold has to rescue Rose, and so that way he can get back to where he is, because they still have the rules of the amulet where they only have 3 days where they can be awake. I didn't realize that they can just like reactivate this every once in a while. Like, they could just keep coming, these kids could just keep reanimating these mummies like every year for 3 days and just being like, hey, it's time, you know, hey, let's go party, let's hang out, you know. hey, it's my graduation. I really wanted you to be there. Anyway, yeah, this movie it is what it is. It's stupid. It's got some points to it that are kind of nice to have in movies about acceptance and everything, and friendship. There's a parallel between the three mummies and their story, and the parallel between the three main kids and their friendship. Doesn't quite work the way they want the way Disney wants it to. They kind of just force it in there, but I don't know. They try. It's like apples to oranges in the scenarios, but they're trying to compare the same thing there. It's the remake wasn't amazing, but it was fine. I gave it a B minus. I think it's fine to watch with your kids for Halloween. The sequel is a little bit unnecessary. It's kind of more dumb, and it just kind of feels a little bit rushed and more of like a cash cow type of thing that they didn't really think through. It feels like one of those sequels that they were just like, we're making it because it made money. That's it. It's the only reason we're making it. Which is weird because these things just go on streaming, and it's like, how much money do you make from that to warrant making a cash cow sequel like this? So I wasn't a huge fan. The narration's better. The narration is done by someone who I'm not 100% sure that I understood what their name was, because I'm fairly certain I've never heard them before. I was expecting someone else. I was guessing it was somebody else, and then I was proven wrong. And I don't want to say the name because I'm not 100% sure I heard what I heard. But this is where being blind and not being able to see the credits and see how a name is spelled is really unhelpful, because when you hear something pronounced in the credits one time, you're like, what? Okay. So, thank you. But to the person who did this, I thought you did a good job. I'm sorry, I don't know. I didn't quite understand what you said your name was. Take more pride in the end with your name, and make sure that the world knows who you are, because you deserve to be known too. That's it. That's all I got for this film. It's not terrible. But there's also nothing special about it. Everything that would have been special about it is now replaced with this weird thing where this guy is trying to steal a mummy bride. Other mummy is trying to steal a mummy bride, and it's just kind of a weird film to have in 2022, where we're not even addressing the whole thing of consent anymore. We're just like, he's just trying to take a woman for his own, and everybody's just like, yeah, that feels normal. It's like, all right. Anyway, that's it. I'm giving Under Wraps 2 a C. Yeah, so we dropped a couple letter grades. Hopefully there's no Under Wraps 3, because at the rate we're going, I don't know what Under Wraps 3 would be about, where they would need to go, or anything like that. But I'm just hoping they don't keep going with this franchise. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you stayed this long, perhaps you like me enough to hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 100 by the end of the year, and I can't do that without your help. So if you hit that subscribe button, maybe I'll get there. Also, I have a website, MacTheMovieGuy.com, so you can go there and read more of my stuff. You can follow me on Twitter at MacTheMovieGuy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And the adna.org will let you know who's narrating your favorite TV shows and movies. You can type in something like Stranger Things, and you can be like, who was the narrator on that? And it'll come up. It's magic. That's it for today. I gotta go review something else, but I will see you on the other side.